touchdown play call to Jordan Leggett worked to perfection, but that was something we ran several times under Chad Morris dating back to his first year in 2011. But I've seen defenses not bite on that also. How hard is it to know exactly when to run that play, not only in the game, but against the right opponent?
Well, you look throughout the course of your film study to see if you have an aggressive defense that likes to rush the passer. You also look throughout the course of the film study to see if they jump off sides at all. We also knew that they hadn't played us in a while, so they may not have went back and as far as a couple years ago to find that play for us. So it's one of those ones you got to feel. It was on the script. We've been practicing it for a couple weeks, waiting for the right time to call it, and we just trusted the script. We had it at that point in time, kind of in that field position, and it called it, and it worked. And just credit to the guys, they executed it well.
And then Jordan nearly screwed it up by going the wrong way, away from his blocking.
Right, and just excited for him. That's something that he takes pride in, and we take pride in the fact that he was able to have his 5th touchdown catch in a game consecutively. So that was big. But yeah, I was a little nervous there at first when he cut back across the grain, but he made the guy miss. And you just look at the tape though. The offensive line, man, they did an unbelievable job of giving great effort. They blocked the entire play all the way down to the goal line. So it's just a well executed play.
Yeah, I was going to say that I saw Mitch Hyatt was actually blocking somebody on the goal line before Jordan scored, and Jake Ehrman was down there. What does that say about these guys?
Well, I was asked a question afterward, and they're just they're a cohesive unit, man. They're having fun. Jay, I would say, is probably the leader up there. He keeps everybody fired up, very comical, but in a good way. And so I lean on him throughout the course of practice. All right, Jay, let's wake the guys up. And he's the vocal leader. And then you got McClain, who's playing his best football, who's a very vocal leader. Just a straight-laced guy, does everything by the book. It's just fun to watch those guys. And one of the cool things is we were able to give the entire offensive line the Player of the Game award for their accomplishments. Not just the first unit, but the second unit came in and played well.
You've had a couple of different stints here. Where does this offensive line rank in terms of how good they are, how physical they are?
It's hard to say because when I was here as a player, I didn't pay as much attention to the offensive line because I was a receiver. I was worried about the secondary and defensive structure. But they're creating a new line of scrimmage for us. They're sound in their assignments. There's not a lot of mental busts. They're having fun. It's not always pretty as you want it, but it's effective. They're covering guys up, and then the backs are finding the creases. So it just looks like everybody's working together and on the same page.
About the center position, it seems like you got a lot of guys in there to play the center position on Saturday that hadn't seen the field or weren't going to see the field anytime the rest of the year. What do you think you built there in depth with the center position?
Well, it's critical for Falcinelli to get in there and have some success. He's a guy that we're repping as a second-team center. Hopefully we'll get Norton back in the mix here pretty soon, coming off of injury. And then, it just builds confidence. It gives those guys an opportunity to get out there and play. And you're not talking about 1 or 2 plays. Those guys play multiple plays, and we didn't have any issues from a snap perspective. But it gives us flexibility because, it's a physical game, and you never know what play is going to happen when a guy's going to have to come out a couple of plays, and that guy's got to be ready. So that experience was very valuable.
What made you – did you intend going in to target Ray as much as you did, and at what point, what was it that made you think this would be his game to kind of feature him?
Well, Ray started with he had a great week of practice, and we've always had high expectations for Ray, but his execution in practice was at a different level. You could tell he was excited to go home, and it was just throughout the course of the game. Obviously the reverse was called. It wasn't a situation where we were looking specifically for Ray because Tay's just as good with the ball in his hand. It just kind of worked out that he was in there on the play calls. But we knew he was going to be excited to play, that he was going home, going to be in front of some of his buddies. So we knew he was going to have a little bit of extra juice and just building confidence, but it started with the great week of practice that he had.
And in speaking, you talked about the center. The depth has begun to show some returns here a little past mid-season. Speak to that and how you see that helping as this team continues to evolve over the last 4, 5, 6 weeks.
Well, the last half of the season is not going to get any easier. It starts this week. You got the number 3 ranked defense, total defense in the country that you got to go against. So getting those guys experience, and it started back with App State and Wofford. Being able to play those guys early to start them off, and it's big for Jake Fruit Morgan, who was out for a little bit of time with injury to make up some reps there. But I think it's going to be critical for our success down the stretch because obviously, we got some tough games coming up. You never know, and this is part of the season where the physicality starts to wear on the guys. You're going to have some situations where guys are going to get banged up. So it's critical that those guys are ready to play. And then they got to understand, too, that the standard doesn't change just because somebody comes out of the lineup. You know, the second team, third team has to go out and produce just like the first team. So it's good to give those guys an opportunity to build confidence, because that's what it comes down to. If they have the confidence to go in because they've done it, you know, in similar situations, it keeps us rolling.
Tony, obviously people don't go down to Miami and do what you guys did on Saturday. Is part of this week trying to remind the guys, hey, you know, it's not going to be that easy when we line up again on Saturday?
Well, you know, going into the Miami game, I don't think the guys thought it was going to be that easy. And it was a combination of our guys were ready to play. They took the approach of trying to get us fired up prior to the game. So it was kind of a storm that all came together on those guys. But we know a couple years ago what happened to us up at NC State, so that's a reminder. But the biggest thing is focusing on Clemson and just reminding our guys that Monday is Monday, Tuesday is Tuesday, and the reason that they've had success is because they've stuck to the plan. And we know that we got to prepare with purpose, effort with technique, and have an all-in commitment. So that's the message to our guys that, you know, it doesn't matter who we play. We're prepared and we respect every opponent, and we don't expect games to be easy, and especially out in practice. You know, practice is probably as tough as it gets to prepare those guys. So the biggest thing is just, you know, staying true to who we are and in our plan, our process in which we prepare with.
Looking ahead to NC State, Mike Rose is a monster. Gary Roseborough, the freshman's playing really well. They seem to be maybe a little bit more active than I've seen them in a few years along the front.
Correct. You know, if you watch them compared to last year, you just look at interior-wise, they're a little bit lighter, a little bit quicker. You know, creating a little bit more disruption inside. You look at them on the edges, they look like they're a little bit more quick twitch. They're a little bit longer. They're playing faster. They're playing with a lot of confidence all the way around. You know, they're confident in their secondary to where they can lock you up in man coverage and be able to load the box and have extra hats to stop the run. So, you know, they're playing at a high level, got a lot of confidence, and they've earned, you know, the ranking that they got when you cut on the tick.
Is this offensive line, has it exceeded y'all's expectations? I mean, you were optimistic going into the year about them, but are they better than you thought they would be at this point?
You know, I'd say that's a fair assessment in terms of just the way that they're working together and the cohesiveness. You know, we knew we had a lot of talent. We knew the influx of the freshmen was going to bring a lot of competition to the group. But just the way that they're communicating and everybody's on the same page. And they're seeing a lot of different things, especially when you prepare for Boston College. Man, they had an unbelievable exotic blitz package. And there weren't any situations in the game where we just turned guys loose for the most part. So just, you know, the thing that I'm, you know, surprised and pleased with is the fact that they're able to, the young guys are able to pick up, you know, all the different things that they got to prepare for. Because now it's not like it used to be where you're getting one defensive front or they're staying in one structure throughout the course of the game. I mean, every other play, it's a different structure that they got to be prepared for, and it's a lot of communication that has to take place.
Statistically, Clemson's the best first half team in the country, and it's not particularly close. What do you attribute to that?
Well, we talk to our guys, it's important to start fast. And I got to give credit to the other coaches on the staff, full-time coaches and graduate assistants, and putting together a good plan to start fast. And we start each week with a certain amount of plays that we want to script, that we feel like are good against any situation that the defense tries to bring, and get us off to a fast start, and the guys feed off of it. And when they have that success early, I mean, it just opens up the floodgates for those guys. So, but it all goes back to how they prepare. You know, they prepare and they take pride in starting fast and understanding that, hey, it's a team game. If we can start fast and get teams behind with our defense, then it's going to be a long night.
Deshaun struggled on his opening drive a little bit earlier in the year. Anything he's changed through the last few weeks?
You know, I think when early in the season, it's just those first game jitters and everybody getting comfortable. But, you know, he's always prepared the same way. I haven't seen anything change in him. It's just overall, over time, we've gotten, you know, more consistent in our execution. And so that's what I think it is attributed to.
Kelly Bryant listed ahead of Nick Schuster on the depth chart today. Do you feel confident now that if you need a backup quarterback to play?
They're co.
They're co.
The only reason he's ahead of it is because we do it alphabet.
Okay. But either way, if Kelly Bryant needs to play, do you feel confident now that he's a guy who can step in there and play?
Well, I think if you watch what he's done when he's gotten in the game, he's earned the opportunity to get more reps, to really open up the competition. And I think to answer that question, by the time we get to the game Saturday, we'll know who the next guy is to run out. But I think he's really opened up that competition, and he's going to get more reps in practice. And so by the end of the week, we'll know who that guy will be. But I think, he's earned the right, to get out there and compete. And obviously, if you look at the two, Nick he did a really good job. I think it was Georgia Tech, and led the team down the field. And obviously, we were a little disappointed in those couple of throws. He's got to be ready to go in there and execute those throws. But, the competition is open, but Kelly Bryant has shown the flashes of what he can do with the ball in his hands.
So who the second-team quarterback is will be decided in practice this week.
Yes.
Have you been disappointed just with Nick's lack of progress from the spring when he was getting first-team reps for a few practices?
Not disappointed in lack of progress. More disappointed in, he's got to be ready because you're one play away from him having to go out there to finish out the game. Obviously, that game was a different situation where it was out of hand and we put him in there, but he's got to be ready to go. And that's probably the only things I've been disappointed is he wasn't ready to go right out the gate. But if you watch in the other situations he's been in the game, he's done well.
The young receivers that you have, obviously when Mike goes down, there's an opportunity. And the four guys that you used have all at different times made plays and shown that ability. Is that kind of rare to see so many of them be able to achieve at a high rate when they're so young?
I think it goes back to recruiting, and we understand the culture that we have here at Clemson, and it's a certain kind of young man that's going to be successful in our program, and it goes back to who they are off the field and what they're all about, what their character is. So I think that's just a testament to the character of the young men that they prepare with purpose and they're ready for their opportunity, and they're not afraid of the big stage. And I think with the way that high school football is nowadays and the amount of attention you get in recruiting and the big games that you play in at the high school level has prepared these guys to be ready to come in and transition.
Obviously, nobody wanted Mike to get hurt, but with that happening, would some of these guys not have gotten as many reps if Mike were in the mix game after game after game?
I'd say that's probably a fair assessment. And then really just the type of games that we played in. There's been some opportunities where we've been able to get some guys in there more than we have in the past. So I think it's just a combination of him being out, but then also we've had some situations where we've gotten ahead and had an opportunity to play those guys.
When you're calling plays, do you feel like because of the weapons you have and the way that some of these guys have grown up and talking about, do you feel like now you have an answer for whatever defense throws out at you?
Well, I wouldn't say I have all the answers, but it is refreshing to know that you don't have to change up, your thought process depending upon who's in the game. And that's just a challenge we give those guys every week, that you got to be prepared because the system has answers built in, but it comes down to execution. And the way that the guys are executing makes it easier on all of us. And I'm not the only one that's calling the plays. There's Coach Scott, Coach Sweeney, Coach Streeter. All those guys are giving me suggestions throughout the course of the game. But it is good to be able to just kind of stay in a rhythm and not worry about who your personnel is.
It's probably hard to quantify now or maybe even down the road, but when you guys go into a place like Miami where there's so much talent, how much does it help when you guys make a statement like you did in terms of just the brand down there and letting people know who you are?
I think, even prior to the game, the Clemson brand is very, very strong in the state of Florida. I have the great fortune of being able to recruit down there. I've recruited down in Fort Myers and then now in Tampa. And when you walk into a school, because of the success that Sammy Watkins has had and the success that J. Ron and McKenzie are having, I think that brand is already strong down in South Florida. But to have a game like that, it gets everybody's attention. And there were a lot of guys that were reaching out after the game, just impressed with how our guys played.
Tony, obviously one of the questions coming into the season was how well you and Jeff were going to perform in your new roles after what Chad was able to do here for so long. What kind of obviously you've answered some of that already. What kind of routine do you and Jeff have? Do you guys get together early on in the week, set things up and say, okay, this week you're doing this and I'm doing this, and we'll let it unfold from there?
Yeah, we have a plan in place, and we've stayed consistent with the plan, regardless of the outcome of the game. And I'll focus a lot on the run game. Jeff will focus a lot on the passing game, and then Coach Streeter's been a tremendous help because he's been a coordinator for a long time, so he can kind of be our checks and balances. But we have a good working relationship, and we do a lot of things together, and not just myself and Jeff, but we include the entire staff. Because again, the more eyes that you have with that understand what we're trying to get accomplished, that understand the plan, we're able to get to those answers whenever a defense poses something that we may not have seen on tape.
Coach Sweeney's obviously the ultimate voice. I'm sure last year Chad was a voice on the headset who said when he said something, that was it. Have there been any, I don't know, have there been any times there have been too many voices in the headset with you and Jeff and Brandon and things like that?
No, you know, the three main voices are myself, Jeff, and Coach Sweeney.
Yeah.
You know, and there's been a lot of suggestions, and there's been times that some of the calls that I end up going with were based off of what Coach Sweeney recommended or what Coach Scott recommended. So it's been a good working relationship, and there haven't been any issues. Not to say that, you know, that's not gonna come up, but there haven't been any issues thus far.
Was it the nature of the games earlier, or was the overall plan coming into the season gradually reintroducing Deshaun's run factor to the offense? Because it seems like over the last several weeks, it's just gotten bigger and bigger and more effective.
Well, you know, I think the first couple of games, you know, obviously wanted to get him back confident, you know, in that knee, you know, probably not run him as much. But then as we got into ACC play, we knew that he was going to have to give us that extra hat that the defense was trying to take away from us with his legs. So there was a little bit of reintroducing it, but now there's design, but a lot of it is based off of the system. You know, it may not be an exact quarterback called run, but it becomes a quarterback run because he manages the system so well, and he's able to see things, feel things, read the keys that we give him to read to be able to pull the ball and make us right.
The long run, that was a read, wasn't it?
That was a read. You know, it was a read. And his touchdown run, the second touchdown, well, his first touchdown run was a read as well.
Tyshawn died. It seems like there's a little bit more giddy up in him. Have you seen that coming from? I mean, like 2 weeks ago, I don't know if you necessarily seen that. Have you seen that coming in him though? But he had a little bit more burst to him. It looked like on Saturday.
You know, he's a guy that needs reps. You know, and because he hadn't played as much football as the rest of the guys have, and I've noticed that in practice. He's practicing better. You know, he's earned the opportunity to get in there a little bit earlier. Still has a lot of things to learn, but he was excited about his opportunity to play. He looked fast running the ball, but now what he has to do is learn how to consistently do that in practice, and he can't just be a gamer. And he's learning that because there's so much competition in the room that you're going to go with the guys that practice the best. Not that he hasn't, you know, worked his tail off. He just got to learn how to be a consistent practice player.
People want to say that Clemson was a one-half kind of team that only played one half of the game. What do you put to that change to make it a full game kind of team?
We're just playing to our standard, and we challenge the backups that if you get an opportunity to play late in the game, the standard doesn't change, and understanding that we got to play 60 minutes, that we got to be prepared to go out and finish games. So I think it's just the culture, the mindset of the young people, the culture that Coach Sweeney has established that we play 60 minutes or however long it takes, and the guys are having a lot of fun. They're enjoying, you know, the opportunity to play. They like to play, and so I think it's just the overall culture of the program.
Kind of alluded to it earlier, but do you guys address with the team the issues or, I guess, history y'all had going to Raleigh the last couple of times? What's happening?
Oh, they'll be made fully aware of and I know Coach Sweeney will do a great job, which he always does a great job, and I know offensively I was here when we went up there, and I think we were undefeated going into that game. But they're a very good football team.
Yeah.
They're playing with a lot of confidence, and so they'll be reminded of that. But when they cut on the tape, it's like watching Boston College. I know from an offensive perspective, looking at the defense, you know, their attention is going to be gathered very quickly when they cut on the tape.
What do you specifically remember about that loss?
Oh man, we couldn't get out of our own way, and we gave them the momentum very early in the game, and we could never recover. That's what I remember the most about it.
2 years ago, did their guy step out of bounds?
That's a trick question. That's a loaded question.
You might have
You know, I was on the opposite sideline, so I couldn't see that. But we understand too that you know, when we walked out of there, you know, last time that they played us well, and there's a lot of different things too. You look at last year, the game kind of got out of hand, you know, pretty quickly. So they're gonna have a little chip on their shoulder. They're playing with a lot of confidence. They're playing at home. It's gonna be a great atmosphere. It's gonna be loud. So there's gonna be a lot of things that we got to get ready for.
And nobody this week is going to mention Florida State.
Yeah, let me tell you something. It's a one-game season, and in the locker room after the game, we told the guys enjoy it for 24 hours, but the season starts tomorrow. And that's what's been most impressive about these guys, especially offensively, is they just take it one game at a time. They don't look ahead to anybody. That game will take care of itself. But the most important game is we're our goal is to win the division, and this is a division game. So we gotta, we can't overlook anybody on our schedule, and we understand that everybody's going to be coming with their best, and anybody in our league is capable of beating us. So we got to focus on this week and this week only.
So you saw what happened at Georgia Tech last week. I think there was another game that ended that exact same way on Saturday. As a coaching staff, do you guys ever get together and say, maybe these long field goals are more, they can be more hazardous to us than we think? Is there any discussion back and forth about, trying 55, 60-yard field goals
Right.
at the end of games just because
that
what we see?
that'll be a discussion that Coach Sweeney and Coach Perrin will have from a special team standpoint. In our offensive unit, we'll talk briefly about it, but we don't focus as much. That's a game plan decision that Coach Sweeney and Coach Perrin got to make.
Talking about guys for the NC State having a chip on their shoulder, I think maybe some of that comes from a lot of those guys were recruited by y'all and maybe didn't get an offer they wanted, and maybe they look at this game as an opportunity to say, hey, maybe y'all should have thought otherwise with us.
Well, and I think it goes even deeper than that. That NC State is a very good football school.
Yeah.
I think they don't get a lot of credit, but if you look in our league, they're one of the top football schools in our league, just in from a competitive standpoint, from fan support. So those guys have a great tradition, going there. And then we did recruit a lot of those guys. But more importantly, everybody's going to be coming after Clemson, just because of the standard that Coach Sweeney's been able to set over the last several years with the brand of the Paw. So I think it's going to be a combination a little bit of from a recruiting standpoint, but everybody wants to go knock off, Clemson. And I think a lot of people circle our game on their schedule. Because of just the culture that Coach Sweeney has in place and just the way that our team plays, a lot of guys want to come play us.
NC
First
State
grade.
is ranked third nationally in total defense. What stands out about what's enabled them to have success?
Well, if you look at them compared to last year, they're playing with a lot of confidence. They're playing fast. I think defensive line is moving a lot better than last year. Number 4 looks to be their emotional leader. He's playing at a high level. Their linebackers playing at a high level, and then their secondary. They're playing a lot more man coverage, so they're able to try to make you one-dimensional. And if you're going to beat them, it's kind of like Boston College. You're going to beat us throwing the football. We're going to have enough hats around the box to stop the run. So they've had some success there, but they're just playing with a lot of confidence, and they look like they're moving a little bit better defensively.
The first set of ratings that really count come out next week. Would you rather not go into this game knowing that somebody ranks you number 3 in the country?
To be honest with you, me personally, I don't read anything. I don't look at anything. I just focus on what I can control, because some people are gonna like it, some people are not gonna like it. But the big thing for us is we can't worry about that. We got to make Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because that's why we've been successful, because of our approach and the way that we prepare. And all that stuff is for the media to talk about and speculate. But for us, we tell our guys it doesn't matter until the end of December, where we're ranked. That's when we'll focus on rankings. But right now, we got a great opportunity to go, challenge for a division championship and get ourselves into the ACC championship, and that's what we're focused on.
So